There is a surah in the Qur'an so brief it can be recited in less than a minute. 3 verses, barely a handful of words. And yet, Imam al-Shafi'i once said that if people reflected on it alone, it would be sufficient for them. This is Surah Al Asr, the 103rd chapter of the Qur'an, revealed in Mecca at a time when the early Muslim community was small, pressured, and learning what it truly meant to live with purpose. Let us sit with it together. Allah begins with an oath. Wal Asr, by time. The word Asr carries extraordinary weight. It refers to the epoch of human existence, to the pressing, squeezing passage of time itself. And some scholars, among them Ibn Kathir, note that it specifically evokes the late afternoon hour, that sliver of day when the sun begins its descent and a person feels, almost instinctively, that something is slipping away. Allah does not swear by something trivial. In the Arabic tradition, an oath is taken on something of immense value or gravity. So when Allah swears by time, He is calling our attention to it, shaking us gently by the shoulder and saying, "Look at this. Understand what this is." Then comes the oath's conclusion, and it arrives like a verdict. Innal insana lafi khusr. Indeed, mankind is in loss. The word khusr is a commercial term. It is the language of a merchant who has made a bad trade, who has spent what was valuable and received nothing in return. Al-Qurtubi reflects on this with care. Every human being, simply by virtue of being alive and spending time, is in a state of loss, unless they are actively doing something to counteract it. The default state is deficit. This is not pessimism, it is clarity. Time spent is time gone, and the question that hangs in the air is, what did you exchange it for? There is a hadith that complements this perfectly. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Take advantage of 5 before 5, your youth before your old age, your health before your illness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before your preoccupation, and your life before your death." The surah and the hadith are in conversation with one another, both pointing at the same truth that we often sense but rarely want to sit with. Time is not a renewable resource. And then, as if catching the falling person mid-air, Allah offers the exception. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds, and advised one another to truth, and advised one another to patience. 4 qualities, 4 conditions, and scholars have noted the wisdom in their sequence with great tenderness. First, Iman, faith, belief in Allah, in the unseen, in the structure of meaning that holds the universe together. As-Sa'di writes that faith is the root from which everything else grows. Without it, deeds have no soil to grow in. This is why it comes first. Then, Amal Salih, righteous deeds. Faith, in the Quranic worldview, is never a passive internal state. It moves. It acts. It shows up in how you treat your family, your neighbor, the stranger, the earth itself. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was asked which deed was most beloved to Allah, and he replied, "That which is done consistently, even if it is small." This is the mercy within the condition. You are not asked for the extraordinary, you are asked for the sincere and the steady. Then comes something profound and often overlooked. Tawasi bil haq, mutually advising one another to truth. The surah shifts from the individual to the communal. It is not enough to save yourself. The one who is rescued from the flood does not stand on the shore and watch others drown. There is an obligation to reach back, to speak truth gently and persistently, to be part of a community where honesty is passed between people like a gift. Ibn Kathir notes that this tawasi, this mutual counsel, is one of the most important social obligations in Islam. We are not isolated souls, we are a body. And finally, tawasi bil sabr, mutually advising one another to patience. Because truth is not always received warmly, because good deeds are exhausting, because the world resists virtue in ways both loud and subtle. Patience here is not the passive endurance of the resigned. It is the active, dignified, chosen steadfastness of someone who knows what they are holding on to and why. Asadi beautifully remarks that sabr encompasses patience in obedience, patience in restraining oneself from what is forbidden, and patience in the face of what Allah has decreed. It is a full-body practice. What moves the heart most about this surah is its architecture. Ibn Kathir records that Imam al-Shafi'i said the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when they would part from one another, would recite Al Asr together first, as a reminder, as a farewell, as a mutual covenant that they would not waste what they had been given. Imagine that, a brief surah functioning as a handshake between believers, a whispered promise to live with intention. The surah asks nothing of us that is beyond reach. It does not demand sainthood. It asks for belief, for action, for honesty with one another, and for the willingness to keep going when it is hard. These are within the capacity of every person who draws breath. And so, as we close, let the image of Asr, that late afternoon light, linger for a moment. The day is not over. There is still time. But the sun is moving, as it always has been, indifferent to whether we used what we were given. The surah ends without a dramatic warning or a detailed promise. It simply names the ones who are not in loss and lets us decide, quietly and personally, which side of that sentence we wish to stand on. May Allah make us among those who believe, who act, who speak truth to one another with gentleness, and who hold on with patience to all that is good.